The alien princess asked for a Swordmaster, and the Empire laughed when the human arrived. Because he came with gray in his beard, scars under his sleeves, and a black oak cane tapping against the palace floor, not a glowing blade, not a war banner. Just an old man with a duffel bag and eyes that had seen too many thrones fall. The guards expected him to kneel. He did not. Princess Valera expected him to beg for the honor of training her, but Marcus Hale studied the court, the dueling ring, the assassins, and said, "I came because your letter sounded desperate. Not because I take orders from children." The court went silent, because in that moment they realized the impossible truth. The greatest swordmaster alive was old enough to refuse them. Valera chased him into the landing hall, pride fighting panic in every step. She offered planets, titles, ships, immortality treatments. Marcus laughed like a man too tired to be tempted. "Princess, I have buried kings who promised me eternity. I have watched metals rust. I do not need more things to carry." She whispered, "If I fail the trial, my uncle takes the throne, and he will sell our people to the Karvak swarm." Marcus looked back, and for the first time, his face changed, because every old soldier has one weakness. A young voice trying not to sound afraid, he stayed one night, long enough to test whether she wanted survival or applause. Before dawn, he found her waiting in ceremonial armor, polished like a mirror. Marcus tapped the breastplate with his cane and said, "Take it off." She refused. So he nodded to a combat drone. The machine struck once, and the princess flew across the marble. Marcus leaned over her and said, "Armor that teaches pride will kill you faster than naked skin. Get up, leave your dignity on the floor." For 12 days he ruined everything the court praised. Her elegant stance, her spinning flourishes, her festival lunges. He made her fight barefoot on wet stone, hold a wooden sword until her fingers bled, lose 2 kitchen boys, stable girls, and old guards. Every time she cursed him, he said, "A blade does not care who your mother was." But the more he stripped away, the more she became. Beneath the princess was a fighter with stubborn lungs. Beneath the temper was a mind quick enough to read patterns. Beneath the fear was courage that did not need witnesses. One evening she asked why humans were hired so often to train alien heirs. Marcus answered, "Because we are fragile. Your species can survive poison, broken ribs, vacuum long enough to prey. But humans learned early that one mistake is usually enough, so we learned to notice everything. The twitch before the strike, the breath before the lie, the silence before betrayal." Then he lifted his cane toward the palace roof. "Where a shadow moved, someone has been watching your lessons." The attack came that night with poisoned incense. Dead lights and sealed doors. Valera woke as Marcus kicked her bed frame sideways, a dart punching into the pillow where her throat had been. The old man moved without the cane now, and she understood. He did not carry it because he needed help walking. He carried it because he wanted enemies to think he did. 3 Karvak's infiltrators dropped from the ceiling. Marcus killed the first with the hidden blade inside the cane, broke the second against the wall, and left the third alive, just long enough for Valera to grab a practice sword and strike where he had taught her. Not hard, not pretty, just true. The creature fell. And Marcus said, "Good, now you are learning." On the morning of the trial of crowns, the arena filled with nobles hungry for blood. Valera entered without jewels, without gold armor, without the cloak of her house. She wore plain dark training cloth and carried a simple human steel sword. Her uncle Lord Threxen laughed, then released his champion, a Karvak's warlord bred in gravity pits. Twice her height, armored in bone, Marcus stood at the edge of the ring. And Valera heard his voice in memory. "The monster is never the fight. Fear is..." The warlord came like a collapsing tower, every blow smashing sparks from the floor. Valera did not meet strength with strength. She moved, slipped, breathed, and let the giant spend fury against empty air. The nobles called her coward, but Marcus smiled, because they were watching a duel while she was fighting a war of seconds. Then she saw it, the twitch before the strike, the breath before the lie, the silence before betrayal. Her uncle raised 2 fingers, and a hidden assassin aimed a poison bolt at her heart. Valera turned away from the warlord and threw her sword into the crowd. The blade struck the assassin's wrist. The bolt missed by a finger, and the arena erupted. Because treason had stepped into daylight, the warlord charged while she stood unarmed. Marcus moved toward the ring, ready to break every law in the Empire. But Valera lifted one hand and stopped him. She waited until the monster's blade fell, dropped inside the ark, seized the dagger from its belt, and drove it between the plates beneath its arm. One human lesson, one small opening, one mistake. The giant fell hard enough to shake dust from the statues. Lord Threxen tried to flee, but the citizens blocked every exit, chanting not her titles, only her name. When the crown was placed before Valera, she did not pick it up first. She walked to Marcus Hale. The old human who had refused her, broken her pride, saved her life, and given her something sharper than a sword. She bowed not as a princess to a servant, but as a ruler to a teacher. She asked him to remain as first blade. He shook his head and said, "I told you I am old enough to refuse." She smiled and answered, "Then refuse tomorrow. Today, stay for dinner." Years later, children across 3 moons called Marcus Hale a war god, a ghost, a blade hidden in human skin. But Valera always corrected them. He was only human, she would say, and that was enough. Because the galaxy had species stronger than humans, faster than humans, older than humans. But when hope was cornered, humanity sent someone who knew the greatest lesson in any universe. A sword can win a duel, but the will to refuse fear can save an empire.